Hi everyone, my name is Heather and I'm the person behind happypuppytruffles, which is a daily origami tutorial on YouTube, and this is just a quick walkthrough of how to use the printables that you can get on my website to make a frog. Now we've got a bunch of designs up already and I'll be adding some every week so that we can kind of get some more designs going, more seasonal things, stuff like that. Any suggestions are always welcome, of course, too. I don't know if I can promise I'll get to all of them, but I'll try my best. I just wanted to show you guys, based on printing the actual paper, what the process is. This is the same steps as was shown in the previous video for making this jumping frog, but I thought it might be helpful to kind of see things with the actual paper that's printed from the site. So this is what one of them looks like when I just printed it, just using the default settings on my printer. I used a laser printer and just regular printer paper, not fancy laser paper or anything. You probably want to steer clear of some of those thicker papers because they won't fold so easily. But we have the nice little gray dotted line around to the edge. You can use either, a cutting board or a cutter machine, any of those kinds of things, of course, too. I'm just going to use some scissors to cut around this. You do want to try to avoid having any of the gray remaining if you can help it, especially over here on the design section, because that's going to be kind of where his little feet are sticking out. So if you could kind of cut on the inside of that part for sure. Over here on this side it doesn't matter as much, but you do want to try to eliminate any of that gray if you can. If you're trying to be really, really exact about everything, it's probably going to be better to keep away from that edge if you can. And I don't really think it's such a bad call to use scissors. If you want to be really, good clean cutter kind of thing, then you can go ahead and use, your like a cutting board. But this works pretty good too. So, and then you can clean things up real easily too after we do the first fold, and I'll show you guys how to do that, just to make sure everything is looking nice. So we get our nice little square piece of paper. Now, with my default settings, like I said, on my printer, I didn't bother to, make it go bigger or smaller, and your printer might print at a slightly different size too. Mine winds up being not quite 15 centimeters, and when I made the actual design, I did make it 15 centimeters, but obviously because of the export settings and those kinds of things, it got made a tad bit smaller. It winds up actually being about 14.3 centimeters. So that's something to kind of consider too. If you're wanting something really exact in size, you'll want to maybe try a couple times until you can get it the right size. And then you can also real easily play along with your percentage settings on your printer to make the paper a different size if you want to make different sized froggies. So we've got our paper here now. This side here, if you wanted to, you could cut off and just use this half here to make your frog. If you've ever made the frog before, then you're familiar with this way of folding. Especially if you're new to origami or you have little hands, it might be good to practice a few times making the frog without this extra half of the paper here. You can cut it off and just do the folds the same. However, in terms of making a frog that really jumps well, it's so much better if you use both sides and you just fold in half. We don't see any of this. It has nothing to do with anything. It just is an extra layer of paper, but it really makes your frog more stiff. He lasts longer. He jumps farther. But, it's a good thing to kind of try out if you're doing things at home to kind of see how things turn out. But I would recommend, especially if you're new to things, to go ahead and just cut that off. This particular side does have a little extra on it for the bleed, so if you wanted to, you can just first fold it in half and then cut along that center line. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off here. We've got the frog design, and then we've got a little QR code here. If you want to be able to just quickly jump back to my website, then you can just use that to scan, and then also just the little logo there to kind of let you know. This is one of the designs that features my puppy dog. So what we're going to do is start off with that design side facing down. Make sure things are kind of, standing up with the little froggy eyes looking forward. And I'm just going to go ahead and fold in half. and I already can tell that I didn't do such a perfect job of cutting. I've got a little bit of stuff sticking out at the top there. This is a good chance to clean up your edges. You can see here there's a little tiny little couple millimeters of extra bleed there, so you could cut here if you wanted to. I'm just going to trim up this side because I did kind of make that a little funky when I was cutting things, but this is always a good chance if you are really wanting to make things perfect to kind of clean things up. So we've got all of that folded in half now, and I'm actually going to start with that part facing down still here, and we're going to go ahead and fold over to create a big triangle. So I'll take that top edge and just roll it straight down to the left side. And the paper does get a little thick from the printing, so you do want to take your time to make a really good crease here to make sure everything is nice and clean. Open it up, and then we're going to go the other way too. And if you need to move your paper around to do that, I like to twist mine around a little so it's easier for me to hold, but we'll just get this other diagonal crease going first. This will help us collapse the paper a little easier later. So you get both of those creases. Then if I flip things over, I want to create a crease that goes right through the middle here of that crisscross. And to do that, I'm just going to bring everything down, and I can match up this corner right to where that crease and the edge match up there. So if I just kind of start over there first, get this side pinched over, and then try my best to keep everything kind of straight, get a good parallel crease going. So when you look at it with the design side facing down now, we've got these nice creases that'll just help us push in and push down to get the front part of the head of the frog at least nice and organized. So we've got the cute little QR code here now on his belly, and we can go ahead and take his feet and just fold them up at an angle, creating a crease that comes right into the middle, and you can choose how far you want this to come up. The color for the foot area gives you a little bit of leeway room, so you can kind of play around with how far you want that to come up. And then I'll do this side too. At this point, depending on the kind of paper you're using and how exact you want everything to be, if you find that you do get a little bit of that underside color here sticking out, that's from this part of the paper. If that's bothering you and you can see it from the front and it's like, I can see white, you can just trim up his feet a little bit, or you can just leave it the way it is. So we've got the head area complete, and then I'm just going to go ahead and take this bottom area and fold in half. Try to keep everything kind of nice and snug. Get a good crease. You really want to make good creases on this part because this part does get really heavy with a lot of layers of paper. Then I'm going to fold each of these sides in towards my center, and I want to kind of lift up underneath his front feet a little when I do this. So if I take this side, for example, try to keep everything nice and flat, especially right here along your edge. Really smooth that out and roll it with your finger, and then get this part to come forward. And I like to start off by just getting this tip here lined up right in the center. So I can just pull that over, get that lined up, pinch it down, and then get the rest of the crease completed. And it can be a little tricky depending on how thick your paper is. Just take your time and try to get a good crease going there, like so. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side too. And don't worry if some of the layers of paper pop out. We're going to be just doing this to try to make a fold later, so it doesn't have to be perfectly clean. So we get those creases folded over. And then I'm going to fold this section in half, and this is certainly a lot harder because there's a lot of layer of paper, so try to keep things snug inside and just roll up with your fingers, using that to kind of create a little bit of a roll to the paper so that you can make a crease. We're going to bring that edge right to the center point here where those little feet are, and once you've got that lined up, go ahead and smush it down and really get that crease going good if you can, to make it really nice and smoothed out. Then I'm going to take these corners and I'm going to fold down to the center. So go ahead and get things started by just kind of bending into there. That helps the paper roll down, and there is a lot of layers here, so you want to really take your time, make a good pinch. Do the same thing on this side too. Kind of get it started first before you roll it down, so that we get this nice little triangle. Now I'm going to take and kind of open up here and pinch right on the top and pop out so that I can get his leg to come out. And I'm going to create a new crease right from this corner right up to the middle by letting this part fold up. And this is where you can kind of adjust things. If things got a little off center or something, you can kind of adjust them to make everything smooth out. I'm going to do the same thing on this side too. Just pop it out, smooth it down. And then I'm going to take that top edge of his foot and we're going to fold it down to the crease that's right here. So we're just folding it in half essentially. So that we should get something like this. Flip it over and I've got my little froggy. He's got his cute little feet, front feet and back feet. And what I want to do is create a crease now that goes from about right where these little feet kind of hit into the side. And there's a lot of paper and this can be really hard. What I usually like to do is with this part actually facing up like this, I'm just going to make sure with my fingers that I'm kind of allowing the paper to curl here. And I'm just going to pull all of this up. And it really is about just keeping the paper smushed down and flat until you can get this part to roll up. And you'll find if you do this a few times, you can kind of play with how far you make these creases, how much zigzag bend you get, and if that changes how far your frog will jump. But I've got that part kind of folded up. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of the body smushed down, even with that. So we get a nice little zigzag crease right there. And that should give you your completed little froggy. And, you know, I think if you are fairly good at origami, all of the design should line up pretty good with everything. You know, you might find things just a little off kilter, but generally, hopefully it'll turn out good for you guys. And I'm looking forward to making lots of different designs later on. And like I said, taking your guys' suggestions and just having a lot of fun with some of these designs. I know so many people don't have access to origami paper, so I hope this is a nice alternative to just using, you know, torn out sheets of paper from your notebooks of lined paper for school. So, but that kind of gives you guys just a quick little review using the paper from the website to make a frog. And thank you guys again so much always for watching, and please check back for updates frequently, and thanks again for all your support, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!